Hello students, today will we discuss about Tennyson as a representative poet. Okay. First point है a representative Victorian poet. Tennyson stands in the same relation to his times as Chaucer does to the latter 14th century and Alexander Pope to the early 18th century. He is truly the glass of fashion and the mold of form of the Victorian period, as Spenser was to the mold of form of the Victorian period, as Spenser was to the Elizabethan age. He is the typical Victorian poet, voicing in his poetry the hopes and aspirations, the doubts and skepticism, the refined culture and the religious liberalism of the age. Like a detached but intent spectator, he closely watched the ebb and flow. He is the typical Victorian poet voicing in his Elizabethan age. He is typical Victorian poet. He doubts and skepticism, the poetry to the hopes and aspirations, the doubt, refined culture and the religious liberalism of the ego. Like a dashed but intent spectator, he closely watched the ebb and flow of events happening in his country. He believes that it was the function of a poet to penetrate and interpret the spirit of his own age for the future generations. And true to his poetic creed, he aged for the future generations. Next, a reflection of Victorian life. Tennyson faithfully reflected the various aspects of Victorian life in his poetry. The change which Tennyson's thought underwent in regard to social and political questions itself reveals his curious sensitiveness to the tendencies of his time. For the sanguine temper of his early manhood, the doubt and misgiving and reactionary alertness of his middle age and the chastened hopefulness of his last years are alike reflections of successive moods which were widely characteristic of his generation. Now we may see how faithfully Tennyson is the organ voice of his age. Next, an age of peace and settled government. The Victorian era was essentially an age of peace and settled government. The old fire of revolutionary enthusiasm had been quenched, and the people of the age longed for a life of settled order, stability, and peace. They did not want excitement, they wished to be soothed, and they had enough or tremendous thoughts in familiar shape. They now wanted familiar thoughts in tremendous shape. The Victorians had a love for law, order, and discipline. Tumult and storm and the revolutionary feelings upsetting established conventions were frowned by the Victorians. Next, Victorian compromise. Politically, the age was striking a compromise between the growing tide of democracy and political freedom to the masses and the continuations of the older order of aristocracy. Tennyson presents this compromising spirit of the age in his poetry. While conceding the claims of coming democracy, he upheld the old aristocracy. Recluse and aristocratic as he was profoundly interested in common people and common things. And it is not the least significant features of his poetry that, along with the prince's mode, the ideals of the king, it contains such things the May Queen, Enoch Arden, and Dora. Next, patriotism. Patriotism and love for the country were the significant features of the age. The Victorians took pride in their nation and national glories. In Tennyson's poetry, the sense of national pride and glory is well sounded. He represents English life and manners with utmost sincerity. The northern farmer is the true pictures of Lincolnshire peasants, and the northern cobbler and village wife are national portraits depicting the rustic life of England. Next, attitude towards women. Tennyson's eminently a Victorian in his concept of love and his high regard for domestic virtues. In his attitude towards women, he is a true Victorian. The Victorian did not approve of women's struggling for right of friendship and equality with men. Women were created for looking after the household. This faith of the Victorian in the subordinate position of women is expressed by Tennyson in The Princess, wherein he suggests that a woman's role is to be a good housewife and enjoy the blessed life of the home. Woman's place is the hearth. Next, love and sex. Coming to the subject of love and sex, the Victorians sought a compromise between unbridled licentiousness of the previous age and the complete negation of the functions and purposes of nature. The Victorian condemned illegal gratification of the sex, argued. Tennyson reflects this spirit of the age by pointing out again and again in his love poems that true love can be found nowhere else save in married life. He cannot even contemplate the possibility of any relation between man and woman other than conjugal. He emphasized cultivation of domestic virtues. He idealized married life, the kind of love that Tennyson upholds and like is exemplified in The Miller's Daughter. It is a simple story of true sweethearts and married love, but raised into a steady and grave emotion worthy of a love built to last for life between a man and woman. Next, moral values. Tennyson as a seer and a prophet. Tennyson believes that the aim of the poet should not be provide aesthetic delight only. He is also a seer and a prophet, and as such his poetry should serve as an animating and enlivening force for his generation. In The Palace of Art, the poet describes and condemns the spirit of aestheticism, whose sole religion is the worship of beauty and knowledge for their own sake. Next, Tennyson's poetry as a record of the intellectual and spiritual life of the time. While, however, Tennyson's poetry is thus historically interested in the social sides, it is even more important as a record of the intellectual and spiritual life of the time. A careful student of science and philosophy, he was deeply impressed by the far-reaching meaning of the new discoveries and speculation by which the edifice bearings of the doctrine of evolution, and at once skeptical in his own temper. Next is scientific advancement. One result of the advance of science was the disappearance of imagination and emotions from the life of the age. This lack of imagination is found in Tennyson's descriptions of nature, where nothing is left for the imagination and every object is minutely described with the precision and exactness of scientists. In this respect, Tennyson upholds the claim of science, though he sounds the final trump of faith. Next are religion and science. Tennyson gives expression to the scientific spirit of the age, the unrest that is brought in Maud and Locksley Hall, and arrives at the haven of peace in higher pantheism and in memoriam. In all these aspects, it will be right for the future historian to treat Tennyson as a representative poet of the Victorian period. His finest poetry, undoubtedly an illustrative record of the prevailing spirit of the temperament and some degree of the national character of the period. In his words, he is truly the glass of fashion and mold of form of the Victorian generation in the 19th century, and Spenser was of the Elizabethan court, Milton of the and Pope of the region of Queen Anne. Next is summing up. Tennyson presented in his poetry all the essential features of Victorian life, the ideas and tastes, the inherited predilections belonging to his class and generation, moderation in politics, refined culture, religious liberalism checkered by doubt, a lively interest in the advance of scientific discovery coupled with alarm test, it should lead us astray. Attachments to ancient institutions, large views of duty of state towards its people, and increasing sympathy with poverty and distress. All these Victorian feelings find expressions in Tennyson's poetry. Tennyson does not thereby surrender the claims of religion, good, and soul. He triumphantly declares his faith in God and the immortality of the soul and in a life after death. He advised the people of his age to have faith beyond all forms of faith, to trust in the large hope, to look in every object of nature and also in the sun, the moon, and the stars. The poet see the vision of God. The sun, the moon, the stars, the seas, the hills and plains are not those of soul, the vision of him who